So I want to give you another example of this blessing of God spilling over thing. I deliver morning newspapers, and it has not rained once. We had the very best winter that British Columbia has ever had. Like, there was almost never any rain at any point in the morning when I deliver my newspapers here in Cloverdale. And I know that is because of the blessing and favor of Jehovah upon my life. And Jehovah said that to me. And so, I'm talking about the spilling over of the blessing of Jehovah. So because Jehovah is in love with a Christian person, okay, and is giving them totally favorable, pleasant weather while they do their task, lo and behold, that means all the other newspaper carriers get blessed. They don't have to wrap all the newspapers in plastic bags. They don't have to wear a raincoat and be trudging through the wet as they deliver their newspapers. I mean, if there's one thing that makes delivering newspapers a little bit more annoying, it's rain and wind. Well, I testify to the glory of God. Since I began in November of 2014 up until now, it's April of 2015, the mornings here in the Lower Mainland, when I deliver the newspapers, have been gorgeous. Like, usually it's raining a ton. It's been impeccable. It's been impeccable. The mornings have been impeccable. I haven't used a plastic bag to wrap my newspapers or one of those elastic band things in months. I just go out there, it's beautiful weather, beautiful temperature, total paradise, just dropping the papers on the doorstep, hearing the voice of God as I go. And that's because of the blessing of God. And so what I want to share is that because of that blessing of God upon someone who seeks Him, like the Bible says, if my people who are called by my name, if we the Christians are walking in love with God, okay, God says, I'll take care of the rest. But what happens is, so what happens when God gives me perfect weather to deliver the newspapers in the Lower Mainland on my route every single morning? Well, that means all the other newspaper carriers receive the same blessing. Every one of them was like, yeah, this, like, if you asked any one of them, they'll be like, this has been the most unbelievable year for delivering morning newspapers in the history of the universe. Like, the weather has been impeccable for delivering newspapers in the morning every single day. You know? And it's the blessing of God. So, that's why it's all spiritual. And it's like, when you know someone is blessed and someone is favored by God, it's like, you want them on your team. You want them around you. Because the blessing spills over. The blessing spills over. Okay? And so, all the other newspaper carriers have had a wonderful past, how many months has it been? November, December, January, February, March. Now it's been almost 6 months, almost half a year. Have just had a wonderful time because it's been basically no rain and no wind. And the temperatures have been pleasant. It's been mild, it's been gorgeous. Delivering in the morning with birds singing. Now imagine this. Now just extrapolate that. Imagine if every single person in the nation of Canada was Christian and was therefore blessed by God. Every single person. And then extrapolate that to North America, Canada, the United States of America, and Mexico. Imagine if everyone was a Christian and everyone was in love with God and walking in the full blessing of God. Imagine what our weather patterns would look like. Everything would be flawless. The Bible talks about this. God giving divine harvests. God, well, how does a divine harvest happen? Well, through perfect weather. If all of North America was 100% Christian, you would see the most amazing weather, blessing our crops, The clouds would literally be like totally like doing exactly what they have to do to get the perfect water on the perfect fields at the perfect time in the perfect amount. People would be happy. God would be like weaving in and out of like, you know, church meetings and like outdoor praise worship meetings, saying like, whoa, steer the cloud around that. We got a Sunday worship meeting out. That we got 100,000 people filling the stadium. You know, the Yankee Stadium is going to be booked for an outdoor worship season. We got to curve the clouds around there for that Sunday appointment. You know, everything would just be weaving perfectly. People would just they wouldn't even realize. They'd just be like, man, I'm in love with the weather like never before. Like the weather is just way better. Like it just seems like whenever I need it to be sunny, it's sunny. Whenever I need it to be rainy, it's rainy. It's like all of a sudden God is just on our side. Like He's just in love with us. And like the weather is just plain perfect all the time. It's like whenever I need to go somewhere, it's like right on. And if I need to deliver my newspapers, lo and behold, it's not raining. It's just like, it's the blessing of God. I mean, God controls the weather. That's God. I mean, if there's one thing that shows off God, it's the weather. In all of its variety. But when the blessing of God, what do I mean by that? I mean, God is in love with certain people on this physical planet. And He likes them a lot. And He says, I'm going to give them what they like. Obviously, when I like sunshine a lot. I like gorgeous, mild, sunny, warm weather. A cloudless day is my happiness. Perfect sunshine, no rain. Especially when I deliver newspapers in the morning. Well, if God's willing to do that for me, and therefore bless all the newspaper carriers in my region, what would happen if an entire nation was blessed by God? You'd see the coolest weather of all time. It would certainly be the best weather of all time. And you know what that means. All the farmers and all the crops would receive the perfect amount of rain in the perfect frequency that blesses their harvest, because it's all proportion. It's all timing. God is able to give you massive harvests in your country just by controlling the weather and the temperature and all the ingredients that make those crops flourish. That's all God. Contrary-wise, He can call for a drought and say, sorry, no water for the entire state of California because you're not pleasing me. Sorry, no water, a drought over the prairies of Canada. Sorry, you're not in love with me. So, I wanted to share that personal story of what God has spoken to me about the weather for my morning newspaper deliveries for the past, since November. So 5.5 months now. It's like April. It's probably been close to 6 months. Started around the middle of April, it's now the middle of May. 6 months, I guess. Whatever. I just wanted to share that personal story with you. That the weather for delivering newspapers in the region where I deliver them for the past 6 months in the morning has been exceptionally perfect. And then all the other newspapers, carriers, got to experience that. It's amazing. You want to know what happens when there's no Christians around? You want to know what the weather becomes when there's no Christians in a city? Fire and brimstone. That's what your weather becomes. Because that's what Sodom and Gomorrah became. The Bible makes it clear that Jesus said that God makes His sun to shine upon the just and on the unjust, and gives rain upon the righteous and the unrighteous. That's why Jesus said, love your enemies. Okay? But God will give particular blessing to the ones that He loves, to those who are His children. Okay, so I really wanted to share that with you. There you go. Very cool. Very cool. I love glorifying God. I love speaking truth.